Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be doing a jazz solo tutorial on piano, but it's pretty much for any instrument. It's Paul Tobey from jazzmental.com. Thanks once again for joining me. I'm going to be doing a solo over Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, and the whole point of this video is to kind of help you out with your soloing as any player. It happens from time to time, you just kind of run out of ideas. In other words, you kind of get into the middle of the solo, things are going well, and then all of a sudden you get stuck and you don't know where to move. So I've got 5 things that I'm going to show you what you can do to kind of get out of that and start to continue on with your solo. These things are really helpful. You're going to like them, and I'm going to give you examples of each one, and we're going to get started right now. All right, so today we're looking at the tune Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. I could have really picked any song, but the reason why I chose this one is because it's fairly simple. There's not a lot of chords, and if you look at the sheet music, it's basically 1 flat 6, 2 5. I mean, obviously the A flat's not there, but anyway, I just kind of throw it in as a substitute chord in the second half of bar 1 and then continuing on from there. So basically it's like... Okay, so it's fairly simple tune, but you're going to need to know what to do if you get into the middle of a solo and you don't really know where to go next. So if you think about it, there are lots of things you can draw upon, but you might want to put these in the back of your head. Here's number 1, state the melody. If you run out of ideas, it's always a good idea to just go with the melody if you obviously know where you are in the tune and you know the melody. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say we've got our solo going. So you notice there are a couple of times I just kind of went back to the melody. Now I might have left some space before it or some space after it. I might have just continued through it. But you can always count on the melody and stating the melody anywhere in your solo when it so moves you. So that's one thing that you can put in your pocket and bring it out at any time. Let's move on to number 2. I love this one. If you're in a solo and you're going along and you're going, oh man, I've repeated myself several times, it's starting to sound a little bit hokey, I don't really know what to do next, and you're thinking, what should I do? Play some chords. It's not that difficult to kind of play some chords. So it's essentially, if I'm playing block chords, it could be something like this. Okay, or it could be even simpler than that. Or let's say the bass player is playing and you just want to play chords with your right hand. So I think you get the idea. I don't think you're going to make anybody go, oh, you're not a great soloist, you don't know how to solo. I think playing chords are part of the solo. And so, just make sure that you're stating the chords that make sense to the tune. You can sidestep your chords a little bit, like things like that, and just pull out your chords whenever you run out of ideas. Okay, so that's number 2. Let's move on to number 3. Now this one is, I think, a simple concept, but very difficult to do for many people, and that is silence. leave some space. And space is not always that easy to leave because we just kind of get into it. We're showing off our chops. We've got scales going. We've got arpeggios going. And then we just kind of keep going. And it's always nice to leave a little bit of space. Let me give you an idea of what that means. Now, I might not have left several bars, but I did leave some space in there and I picked it up sort of where I left off. Let me give you another example. Let's go to the bridge now and see what we can do with the bridge. So I played the bridge and then I left a good bar, bar and a half before going into the next phrase after I got back into the A section. So again, leave some space. It's always nice. It creates a little bit of tension too because they're like, oh, they're waiting on you to play. You could even leave it longer if you wanted to. Like, let's try leaving some really long space and see what happens. So again, space. It's always nice. Just kind of let things play out. And what you'll find often is when you're playing with other musicians, and I wish I had some here, they will like to fill in where you're kind of leaving off. The drummer will kick in and say, oh, space, great. He's leaving me some space to kind of be heard. Kind of a neat idea. Okay, the next concept that I have to share with you is number 4, and that is the whole concept of, well, what did I just play that I can repeat? This is what we sort of call and answer. So call and answer requires that you listen to yourself playing, and then as you're listening to yourself and you play something that's neat, restate that, maybe on some different chords. Obviously, if those chords have passed and you're onto some new chords, you can still restate it. You just have to make sure that you're in the key of the moment, and it doesn't have to be note for note. It can just be sort of like the same type of motif or pattern. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'm going to state an obvious melody and then I'm going to follow it up with some type of answer. So you'll hear it when it happens. So again, what you have there is just kind of catching a melody that sounds kind of neat. And of course, I'm just making these things up on the spot. If I were playing with other musicians, it'd probably be a lot more filled out than that, but I think you get the idea. Call and response. State something, repeat it, or give an answer to it. So for example, instead of repeating exactly what you played on different notes, just give an answer to it with a different sort of motif. Let me give you an idea of what that sounds like. So that little melody, I don't remember what it was, but so you get the idea. It's like boom doo 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 beep ba doo ba da boom doo doo doo. So just this sort of call and response. So again, I'm not repeating the melody again, I'm giving an answer. So that's kind of a neat one. And then the last idea that I have is you can always rely on this, and that is just play the scales, or play some arpeggios over the chords. So for example, if you just play like a C minor bebop scale, you can't really fail with that. Let me give you an idea. So again, you can't go wrong just kind of playing a scale. And then if you want to mix that with some arpeggios, then that kind of sounds neat too. Let's do that. All right, so that pretty much covers it. State the melody, play some chords, leave some space, call and answer, and then finally, you can always rely on the scales and arpeggios. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, you want me to drill down on it a little more, all you got to do is make some comments below. And if you've got some ideas that you use all the time when you get stuck in a solo, I'd love to hear about them. Put them in the comments below. Thanks for your time.